Hi everyone and welcome to Season 13, Episode 1 of From Hope to Glory at Truro City with me, the United City FM. Season number 3 in the Premier League for us, having finished 17th and 9th in the last two seasons. What can we do this season? Good question. There's lots of transfer dealings that have happened over the summer. I'm actually pretty pleased with how we've upgraded the squad. So let's go and check it all out. So indeed, welcome back to Truro City and a brand new season in the Premier League. It's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a challenging one in a lot of ways. I am happy with the summer business. We haven't quite closed the window yet, so it might still have one more signing in there, maybe, depending on a couple of factors, but we'll have to wait and see. But ultimately, I think we've done a good enough job of trying to improve a couple of key positions in the squad, so that's pretty good. If we go and have a look at the fixture list from the friendlies that we've played, it's been perfection all the way through. We haven't dropped any of the games at all. We've won them all and looked pretty good doing it, to be honest, all the way through. We've got an issue still that our stadium hasn't been resolved. We're looking to build a new stadium. Every season they come and tell me it will be within 2 seasons that we'll have this stadium and it's all planned out. And then the following season they say that's been pushed back because we haven't found a site yet and all those kinds of football manager things. So currently I think it says we'll be in a new stadium in about 3 seasons from now. But I'm not totally convinced, if I'm honest. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. But hopefully we'll get that sorted sooner or later. In terms of our start for the season, it's a tricky one. I mean, we got Derby County today in the first game of the Premier League, which is not too bad. But then a really challenging run of fixtures all the way through Leicester, Tottenham, Liverpool, into Wolves and then Man United before it settles down a little bit after that. But there's some tricky fixtures in there. Man United have already played their first game of the season. They're the only game to have played against Newcastle. And Newcastle beat them. So that's an interesting start to the season. Other than that, nobody else has played yet. We'll go and check in with the league table and just show you that it's changed because of that game. So one game played for Newcastle. They're at the top. Man United at the bottom. Nobody else has played. But if we go into the season preview, you might not be able to see this. It's behind my face cam. But we are still absolutely rooted to the bottom of the preview for the Premier League. 20th position, 1,000 to 1. The next team up above us are Leeds United at 700 to 1. And then you've got the likes of Brighton, Villa, Derby above that at 450 through to 300 to 1. So you can see, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter how high we finish in the table. And we finished 9th last season, remember. The size of our club, the playing staff, all that kind of stuff equate to everybody thinking that we are going to get absolutely tonked by everybody and go back down again. I don't believe that for a second. I think we've got a better squad this season than we had last season, and I'm looking for another top half table finish if I can get it. If I can finish somewhere 10th and above, I will see that as cementing what we've previously been able to work on and doing a pretty good job of moving this club forward. So that's my hope for the season, but it could be anything. We could go on a relegation run. Who knows? It could literally be anything. In terms of our media Dream 11, we don't have any players in it. In terms of key players, if we click on team and go and find Truro City, you'll see it's Colombini and Wendell. So that's our central defender and our goalkeeper are our 2 key players, apparently, as the thought from the media, should I say. So that's all right. But ultimately, as I say, it's one of the things I'd quite like to change in Football Manager if I could. Excuse me. I think if you have a reasonably good top half of the table finish, it should at least bump you up a couple of spots in the preview for next season, really. I'm not saying we should be expected to finish in the top half again, but maybe they should be putting us in like 17th or something in terms of the preview because of what we've previously done. But there you go. I'm sure there are many reasons why that's not the case, but it's just something I'd like to see. It feels like we're going to have to do something pretty spectacular to turn that around a little bit. Anyway, let's get on with today's episode a little bit more. We've got Derby County coming up. They're going to be an interesting one to start off with in this season. We are away from home, so it's always a bit of an interesting one. And of course, we are going to be a little bit unsettled maybe by a couple of new players coming into the side, but also a couple of injuries that we'll look at as well. So let's first go and have a look at the transfer dealings for this last summer. So, with regards to transfers, we're actually starting on last season's transfer history page. There's the transfer history at the top of the page, the page that we're on, but it's last season's that we start with. If you remember, at the back end of last season, we had a very decent transfer budget that I could use, and I tried to use some of it before it reset for this season's budget, and we managed to do that a little bit. So what we've got here is we've got 4 players at the top of the out list here that have all left the club since last season, and that's Fink, White, Battersby and Baptiste. On the next page, which we'll look at in a minute in terms of ins and outs, which is in theory the page for this current season, Mavropanos is also on that. So that's 5 players out of the club. We've brought 5 players into the club as direct replacements for them. And I think we've got upgrades all the way through. So the top 3 in this page are all new players. So let's go through them. We start with Kelvin Marks, bought in from Norwich for £14 million, and he is going to be an update in an upgrade, should I say, in our central midfield position. Goodwin is currently the number 1 choice and will remain so this season to start with. But this guy comes in and has got a decent amount about him to play a little bit more creatively, potentially. I think Goodwin is a good all-round midfielder. I think this guy is a little bit more specific in being a little bit more creative. So Kelvin Marks comes into the club. He'll get some game time. We'll see who fits best in terms of systems and styles of play and all that kind of stuff. But he's a definite upgrade on what we've had in this position before. So that's our first player. The second player is a brand new striker, and he will start as my number 1 choice at the beginning of this season. Abu Bakar still in the club and will play a very key role for us, but he's going to drop down to the bench just a little bit, and the 2 will rotate into this starting lineup role to see how we get on. And it's Maximiliano Cinerelli, and he was bought from River Plate for £7.5 million. He's Argentinian, and this is the guy for our new striking position. He's 20 years old, so he comes with a lot of potential rather than totally realised it all at the moment, but a good amount of finishing, composure, off the ball. The pace could be a little bit better, but we don't need that as much if he's going to be able to think ahead of the play a little bit. And he's got a reasonable amount of good attributes for what we want him to do. And in terms of the friendly matches, he got 5 goals in 6 games. So he started really well. But Abu Bakar will absolutely get plenty of game time. These 2 will rotate because there's not too much dissimilar about them. The only advantage that Abu Bakar has potentially is over on the physicals, where his pace is a bit better. So they will both get games, but Cinerelli comes in as my number 1 first choice striker for this season at the beginning, and we'll see how he gets on. His star rating is slightly higher than Abu Bakar at the moment. So there you go. That's why he's in at number 1, and I think it's primarily through his mental attributes. So Cinerelli comes into the club as a new striker, so I think that's a definite upgrade on the reserves that we've had behind Abu Bakar before. And the next one, we paid a lot of money for this guy, £40 million. I think it was 20 and 20 in terms of upfront and instalments, to Sheffield United for Carl Swan. And this is only because the reason we paid so much money is because he's a very good right-sided fullback, but he's also English as well. And I wanted a little bit of English connection still running through the club. And I definitely wanted an upgrade on my right fullback position. And this was the best guy that I could find to fulfill that role. So Fink has gone out of the club, and this guy, Swan, comes into the club. We've probably paid too much in a way, but at 21, there's plenty of time for him to realise his very high potential. And I do think we've got a big upgrade on what we've had before. And I do think we've got a potential for either a superstar to be here through this guy over the next season or so, or a decent amount of resale value in him, even over and above that 40 million, if we continue to get games out of him. So he comes in as my first choice right-sided defender. Nico Williams is still in the club, will play as a rotating role in that right fullback position, but this guy is now the number one guy. So those are the three that we've bought in from this page. If we then move forward to, in theory, the current season's page, there's Mavropanos having gone out. And then we've got two new guys here. One we've seen before. We picked this guy, Joan, on a free transfer from Barcelona. And we knew this from January last season. So we knew he was coming in as a central defender. 18 years old he was when we first got him. He's now turned 19. And it's all about potential with this guy. He'll be down the pecking order a little bit, but we will get him some game time. We will improve him. And there's a big resale value on this guy, I would expect, once we get him playing a little bit. Little bit of a gap here and there, but I think we can work on that with him and improve him. He's currently valued at 1.3 million, but I would imagine once we get him in the team a little bit, playing some games, then I think this guy will improve a lot and we'll have a bit of a good player on our hand. So Joan comes into the club, and the last player on our transfer list is actually another central defender. So we let Baptiste go and Mavropanos go from last season. Mavropanos because he was 34 and I wanted a younger talent to bring into the first team. And Baptiste, who was a little bit of a reserves player by the end of last season, didn't quite deliver for me last season. So those two left the club. So Joan was basically the replacement for Baptiste. And this guy is the replacement for Mavropanos. Now, I don't think he's quite as well-rounded at this moment, but for 15 million from Brighton and Hove Albion, I think we've got a good central defender. Again, a young English central defender as well. And I think that once he plays regularly for us, and he will play regularly for us, alongside Colombini in the centre of defence, this guy, I think, will improve quite a lot in terms of his all-round attributes. I think there'll be some improvements there, and we'll see his star rating improve, I think. And I think we've got a decent young prospect here at the age of 21, as I say, and also English. So overall, I'm really happy with the upgrades that we've made. We've improved basically the spine of the squad with a central defender, a central midfielder, and a central striker. We've also got that new central defending youngster from Barcelona who will come into the squad and play his part. And we've improved possibly one of our slightly weakest positions from last season, which was right fullback. I felt that Williams did very well, but Fink maybe was just now at a level where it was a little bit beyond him. So I think overall, we've done a pretty good job. I'm pretty happy with it. But let's go and see how we get on in game number 1 against Derby County with all of these new players. So the first thing that we notice is that we've got a couple of players missing from today's lineup. So for one, Goodwin is injured, our central midfielder. He's going to be out for 3 to 5 weeks, unfortunately. He picked up a knock in one of our recent friendly matches, unfortunately. So he's going to be out, but that means that Marks, one of our new players, plays today. Gonzalez, our holding midfield player, he's away with Mexico at the moment, the under-23s, I think through the Olympics or something like that, maybe. So he's unavailable for today. And then the only other one is Bondor, one of our right-sided midfield players. He's going to be suspended for the next match. He picked up a sending off towards the back end of last season, and they gave him a 3-match ban, which moves over to this season. So he's going to be out possibly for this game and maybe even for next. I can't remember where his suspension runs to. So those are the players that are out. So you'll see that other than Joan, our young central defender, all of our new players are actually playing in the first team today. So the first team sheet of the season against Derby County in the Premier League, we have Wendell in goal, Swan at right back, Fenn at left back, Claridge and Colombini in central defence, Sambol, Marks and Morrison in central midfield, White on the right, Izvakov on the left and Cinerelli up top. with a bench of Nelson, Williams, Benamor, Thompson, Wright Phillips, Dudita and Abu Bakar. So let's get into today's game and see what happens. Now, this is a very interesting first team talk to give of the season. The options are primarily based around being huge underdogs and going out there and giving it a good go. I don't actually believe that. I don't prescribe to that. We finished 9th last season. The game is not recognising where we are currently. We might not naturally be 9th in terms of the best squads, but we are certainly not bottom of this table, I don't believe. And so I'm not going to use any of those ones. What I'm going to do is go hands in pockets, very chilled out, and we're going to say, let's give a good performance despite the odds being against us. It still registers that actually we are slight underdogs here, but I'm not going to actually say it in as specific a way as a lot of the other ones want us to do. It talks about being underdogs. It talks about pulling off upsets, all that kind of stuff. I don't prescribe to it, so let's go as much as we can in the positive way of looking at the game. There's some nerves around, unfortunately, because of that team talk, but we'll have to get on with it. And we get into the first game of the season, away from home. Now, of course, we could get beaten here, and we could be shown to be one of the weaker sides in this division. Who knows? It is a little bit of an interesting one, because I think our 9th place position last season did flatter us slightly. But I do potentially still think that top half of the table finish for this squad that we've put together for this season is not beyond us. We'll have to wait and see. Wendell comes out, claims that ball very nicely. Our goalkeeper sets us going for our own attack right in our own penalty box, playing out from the back very nicely, making Derby run a little bit to chase the ball. And keeping possession very well. It's a good passage of play so far. If we can maintain it all the way through to an opportunity, then this will be a pretty spectacular chance should it go in. Everybody getting involved in the play, even Cinerelli up top coming deep. And that is a phenomenal goal. It's a brilliant team goal right the way from our goalkeeper, passing it out from the back. Pretty much everybody had a touch of the ball, mostly anyway. And Marks finally puts the ball through to Izvikov, the left-sided winger, running into the box off this left-hand side, gets on the end of it, puts the ball in the back of the net. I don't think we'll see a better goal all season, potentially. That was so spectacular that we kept the ball and really controlled the ball as well. All on the floor, very calm, very composed. And a really good strike at the end of it puts us 1-0 up. Against the run of play in a lot of ways, they've had more shots than we've had at goal. But ultimately, we did what we could with what we had to work with. Again, Derby put the ball in the box, but we get it partially cleared. They pick it up again on that left-hand side and come back at us again. They've switched the play and poked it through themselves. Really good block. And we noticed that Izvikov has got a knock there. So I'm going to pause the game and go into the tactics and just see what's gone on with him, because I can't really risk anybody at this early point in the season. Potential knee injury. We're going to keep an eye on him at the moment. He's got fair in terms of his conditioning. We'll see how that is in 10 minutes or so at half time. So we will cancel that and go back out. We'll just keep an eye on him at half time. And if he's improved his conditioning, then that should be okay. We'll probably still take him off at half time. But just at the moment, we'll keep an eye on him. So again, Derby go through on goal. And again, we get some good blocks in the defensive area. I think he might have been offside at that point, possibly. But defensively, we're doing pretty well so far. It was a good chance for us to get a ball in there from the corner kick. Didn't quite manage to get any attempt at goal from it, but we've maintained possession just outside the penalty box. And we're coming back at them again. Nice one-touch football again. And it was Izvikov again on the end of it. This time the goalkeeper comes out and claims the space a little bit better and parries it out for another corner kick. Corner goes into the near post. Nobody really there, though. That's not quite how I've set it up for this season. We'll have to look into that a little bit. But we are approaching half-time. It looks like we are going to have to take Izvikov out of the starting lineup just because of that potential knee issue. And unfortunately for us, Derby County, just in the last seconds of this first half, had a corner kick on this near post, and he put it to the far post, I think it was, quite a deep corner. And there was a couple of attacking players at the back post there that got above the defenders, and they do get an equalising goal from it, unfortunately. Good header from them. And just in those dying seconds, we came a little bit unstuck, unfortunately. So we're going to go into the dressing room. Well, I think we're going to have to go unlucky, but we'll do it in quite a positive way if we can. Let's go with the hands in the pockets again. Unlucky, things haven't quite gone right for us, but it could still work out for us. And then we'll go into the tactics, and we are going to take out Izvikov and put Dudita in just for protection, really, of him and his knock that he's taken early in this season, unfortunately, and hope it's not too bad as we move forward. So back into the second half we go. We go into the shouts. We're going to fire them up to begin this second half and see whether we can find a route through to goal. And if it doesn't quite start in our favour, we'll up the mentality of the team as well. But Cinerelli rides the challenge then and then gets a strike from the top of the box on goal, but not on target, really. And as I say, we can always up the mentality. We're imbalanced at the moment, so we could always go positive or attacking and see if that helps us to move forward a little bit better. Derby County had a really good chance then, though. A good whipped cross in from this near post into the 6-yard box, and the header goes slightly over the top of the bar. So they are pushing at us. They've still had a couple more shots than we've had, but we've had a little bit more possession than them. So ultimately, I think we're doing okay, but we've still got to be a little bit careful here. Another corner for Derby, and they maintain possession, but then we get a foot in momentarily, but they win it back in their defensive area, go over the top early, and we go 2-1 down. Mendoza on the end of a really good over-the-top ball, and the two defenders weren't quite at the races. Was there an offside here? Please be an offside here. I don't think there's going to be. There wasn't at all, was there? It was a very well-timed run from Mendoza, who went back, all the way back past our defenders to get onside. So at this point, the first thing we are going to do is change up that mentality and go into attacking and just see if we can do anything with that for the next few minutes. But again, it's Derby County on the ball and putting on the pressure. Looks like we're going to have to change a couple of other things here in terms of styles of play and formations, etc., to combat this. Fenn eventually sorts the danger out for us, puts it back to the goalkeeper, puts a brilliant ball out, but then the ball into Cinerelli isn't quite right, and the defence pick up the loose ball again and set themselves going. And they go over the top again, really, really quickly over the top. And it's a little bit dangerous for us. A corner kick. After this corner kick, we are going to make some changes because the game is beginning to slip away from us just a little bit, unfortunately. So we're going to pause the game there, go into the tactics page. And I think we're going to almost fight fire with fire. We're going to put 2 up top, I think, for us and see if we can go over the top of them as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to put Morrison up alongside Cinerelli, but then we're going to replace him with Abu Bakar. So Morrison will come out of the team. Cinerelli is a little bit fortunate that I want to change the formation rather than just the players because he's not having the best of games, but also right down the right-hand side is not as well. But we don't have the natural replacement for him, unfortunately, because Bondor is out injured, unfortunately. So there's a couple of really, really lucky players here that are continuing to play, even though maybe I would normally take them out. So we're going to create the poacher role for Cinerelli, and we're going to use Abu Bakar as the advanced forward on attack. So those are the two that we're going to use. We're going to move Sambol into midfield. He can still play the ball-winning midfielder role there. And we'll push right up, down in on this right-hand side. And we're going to go out of our custom vertical tiki-taka. And we're going to go route 1 and try and work off of these two players here. And see if we can get a couple of chances. So we've made 2 changes this match so far. We've got 1 more that we can make. And the player that I'm going to bring on, I think, let me just think about this. I think what we're going to do is we're going to take Swan off down the right-hand side. A debutant, remember, but he's picked up a yellow card, and we can't afford to lose players in this particular match. Being down, we have to maintain our 11 as much as we can. So we'll take one of those yellow cards out and see how that works for us. As soon as we go back out onto the pitch and we press play again on the game, then we're going to go into the shouts and we're going to demand more from them. And we are going to up the mentality to attacking again, even though we're now in the Route 1. So every fibre of what we do becomes about trying to get the ball forward as quick as possible and see if we can get some chances. But it's Derby with another chance and a good defensive block again, but they've still maintained possession. They're coming back at us again. They are working really well. They've provided a much stiffer opposition than I thought we were going to get, and that just demonstrates it. A little bit of confusion in the defensive area, and our season is not going to start well, it feels like. 3-1 down to Derby now, and remember, we've got the likes of Leicester, Liverpool, Man United, all sorts of big teams coming up in the next few games. This was the chance to potentially get off to a good winning start, and we have not quite made it, unfortunately. Now, the other thing that I would say is that there is a little part of me, or let's watch this one a little bit because they're having another go at us at 76 minutes. Derby working down the left-hand side, and we get it away from them. Marks with a really good ball forward for Abu Bakar to drop in and pick it up. Can he cross it in? He can. White on the ball, and that is a brilliant response eventually from the new debutant Marks, who gets on the end of the ball at the top of the box and puts it in the back of the net with a thunderbolt of a shot, and we go 3-2 down. But what I was going to say was there is a little part of me that is not surprised by this start. And the reason for that is it feels like, through my experience of Football Manager, if you have almost the perfect friendly matches before your season starts, it's very, very often that you struggle to get going when the proper competitive matches start. Now, that might just be me making that up, but let me know in the comments below whether you've experienced that. Normally, if we have a pretty ropey friendly set, then potentially we start better in the competitive matches and vice versa. So this doesn't necessarily surprise me, although having said that, at 84 minutes in, the changes have worked amazingly well, because on this occasion, again, Marks is on the ball, Sambol takes over, Williams gets involved in the play, White drops in deep and then puts it down the channel, the side channel for the penalty box, and Abu Bakar gets on the end of it and lashes the ball home for a 3-3 with 5 minutes to go. We have turned the tide again of this match, and with 4 minutes to go now, we had a goal kick. And it didn't quite work out originally for us, but we kept possession briefly, and then Derby win it back again. Please don't let us concede another goal. We've done so well to come back, and there is a foul right on the edge of the box. Now, is it in the line or outside of the line? Have we given away a penalty or just a free kick? I'm going to say it was on the line, and if it's on the line, I think it will be given as a penalty. We'll see. Here he comes. Penalty awarded. I thought it was. It was directly on the line of the penalty box, and unfortunately, with 3 minutes to go, we've absolutely done ourselves in by giving away a penalty that the goalkeeper went the right way for, but it went underneath him. And we go 4-3 down with 2 minutes to play. We have absolutely done ourselves in, having expended all of that energy to get back on terms with them. We gave away a silly penalty kick. And it looks like we are going to lose this game, unfortunately, having just about come back into it. There's the final whistle. Oh, that's really frustrating, because we were almost there. We almost got back. Now, the statistics from this match make very interesting reading. I mean, Derby County, 21 shots a goal, 13 on target. That's not bad at all. With an XG rating, the expected goals of 3.09, you can see why they got the goals that they did. For our part, we had 12 shots at goal, only 4 on target, and we have to improve that. We have to, out of 12, we should be looking to get like 8 on target, maybe, just to put the pressure on. And we didn't do that today. With an XG rating of 1.3, you can see that we were below what Derby produced. We had a little bit more possession, but ultimately, It didn't equate to the win. We got beaten on the opening day, and we've got some very tough fixtures coming up next. So all in all, not a brilliant start. So just before we figure out what's happening for next episode, we'll see that Izvikov is out for 2 to 3 weeks, unfortunately. So he did pick up a decent sized knock in the end. We've got enough about us in the squad to be able to cope with it for a couple of weeks. But ultimately, we want this guy back. He's a good young talent for us. So into the schedule that we go, and we'll see that we've got all of these really, really big games coming up. Leicester, Tottenham, Liverpool, Wolves, Man United. Really, really tricky games. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back immediately after that run and just see where we're at. And we'll come back and we'll play Crystal Palace at home. Our first home game on the episodes this season, just to see if we can get something from that, maybe to turn around some early season form that isn't quite what we would hope it to be. There is a cup game that the opponents are unknown for just at the moment in the Carabao Cup, the League Cup in England. So hopefully we'll get a decent opposition for that and get an early, get a good game to go through on that one early. But ultimately, this is going to be a really tricky run of fixtures after a very challenging start. There is that perfect friendly list. Do let me know about that. Is this your experience? I swear blind, this happens to me too often. You start brilliantly in the friendlies before a season starts, and then the competitive matches come in and you lose the form really easily, and vice versa. If you've had a poor pre-season, you often get off to a really good start in the competitive games. Am I making that up? Let me know in the comments below. But we're going to come back for Palace next. But between now and then, I've got some challenging games to play. But thank you for joining me for this early start to this early episode in season 13, should I say. We've got a lot still to play in this season. It's going to be tricky, but I still believe in this squad. I still think if we can find a way to get a few points on the board early in this tricky run of fixtures, we'll be okay. So join me next episode. Until then, thank you for joining me today. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and join my United City community. The more the merrier. Click that like button on this particular episode. That'll help us get seen by more people. Until next time though, take care of yourselves. I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.